The supreme, profound, and sublime Dharma is difficult to encounter in a billion eons. Now I see it, hear it, receive it, and kept it. I vow to attain the true meaning of the Tathagata. In order to liberate all sentient beings, let us generate supreme bodhicitta. So yesterday we stopped at a part of the rainbow. Phurba Rinpoche went to the national park and watched the eruption of a volcano. Also, he said that the karma of sentient beings are inconceivable. On our way back, an amazing thing happened. A rainbow followed Phurba Rinpoche just like a shadow. Wherever his car moved, the rainbow moved closely. Hawaii is known as the Rainbow State. So it is not unusual to see rainbows in Hawaii. I think in Larangar, in Doma Monastery as well, in various places, we can see rainbows quite often. But this rainbow was really different since it seemed to chase after Rinpoche a long way and followed his car closely. Remember Miguel, the person that we interviewed, he remembered that vividly as well. He said that the rainbow just followed Rinpoche. The locals won't be surprised by rainbows because it is a state of rainbows. But after 30 years, Miguel, the local, could still remember vividly of how the rainbow appeared wherever Rinpoche went. There is definitely some significance associated to it. That's why they can remember it even after 30 years. So Phurba Rinpoche stopped and sat down by the road and take a photo with a rainbow as the background. It's such a great photo. Good tendril too. Many people, through various ways, tried to get this photo. After a while, the rainbow gradually disappeared. I noticed that Choji kept on reciting something silently, because at that time Phurba Rinpoche was a little bit far away from us, and he spent a little bit of time over there, and he probably recited something, but not sure what it was. Not sure if it had something to do with the deity, the Hawaiian goddess of volcanoes and fire, Pele. At that time, we were rather quite curious, but we were nervous to ask him. Initially, I finished the later part altogether, but then after I finished the entire thing, they told me that there was no power. Left a pair of shoes. As Khenpo Jigme Phuntsukwe departed from the land of Tibet, I had packed some light summer clothes, but no extra shoes for him. So he arrived on this tropical island in his heavy Tibetan leather boots. This pair of boots were worn by Phuntsukwe Rinpoche when he was with Lama Achu, Toku Tenzin, and with the Nyarong Lama and his Dakini as well. So he worn it to many different places, and for a long period of time it's already been quite worn. It certainly would be too hot and cumbersome if His Holiness had to wear them all the way on this tour, especially in such a place with a tropical climate. So I found a chance to ask someone in the monastery to take me to a shopping mall in the Hilo nearby. At that time, I asked someone else, not Miguel, it was someone else. Initially, he wanted to, but he couldn't, so he helped us to find another management member to take me to the Hilo shopping center. Hilo is the city that we were at. And then at that time, I was really amazed that there were neither glass sale counters nor salespeople standing behind the counters. All the goods were neatly displayed with customers within customers' reach. So I could feel really freely pick up anything I felt interested in. I was really quite surprised that everything was just placed quite openly, and I felt that it was really open. And aren't they afraid that the things would be stolen? So at that time, I was quite amazed by the display of that shopping mall. Recently, in Larangar, we started to have superstores like that. Last year, I think the Lama's shops started to have these kinds of display. But back in the 90s, we didn't have such kind of arrangement in shopping malls at all. Out of a large selection of shoes, I picked up a pair of sturdy leather sandals. It was priced at over $70, which is about 800 RMB at the time. Although they were quite pricey, I still bought them because His Holiness' feet were too large to fit comfortably even in the largest size shoes in China. So I was very glad to get him a pair of well-fitting shoes in America. Maybe because the Americans are rather quite tall and big, so their sizing are quite fitting for Phuntsok Rinpoche. Other than the monastic robes and clothing that's very difficult to be found in United States, I think the shoes are really quite well. At that time, I felt that as long as Phuntsok Rinpoche is comfortable in those shoes, it's really wonderful. But for myself, whenever I thought about those are going to cost me US dollars and then to calculate them into RMB, it's really expensive, so I didn't want to buy anything for myself at all. After then, I took the shoes back to the temple, and then His Holiness tried them on, and the shoes turned out to be a perfect fit and comfortable. The brand is still available now, but I didn't write the brand into the book because I don't want to give them advertisement or anything, but it's rather very sturdy shoes. His Holiness wore them during our entire trip. And even after we returned to the land of Tibet, he would still wear this pair of shoes often. They were worn by His Holiness on many occasions throughout his life, but had never broken down. When we left Hawaii, His Holiness' Tibetan leather boots were left at Nechung Dorje Dayanling. The resident Lama held them as a treasure. He wrapped them in a piece of yellow cloth, locked them in a cabinet for years, and only showed them to a couple of fortunate people. At first, I thought to then get those pair of leather boots back, but when I made lots of offering to them, even so, they didn't want to return the boots. But after many rounds of persuasions and so on, they finally agreed, because my concern was that I wasn't sure how the monastics would be keeping those boots, because it's hard to say if the new abbots would know this part of history or not. So finally, after many rounds of persuasion, after many rounds of requests, we were able to get this pair of boots back, and now it's presented at Doma Monastery's Phuntsok Rinpoche's exhibition hall. His recorders and his clothing and texts that he used are now all in exhibition over they're very valuable and full of blessings. So far, this pair of shoes has been preserved on this island for almost 30 years. Until recent years, I entrusted a person to try to invite them back with an amount of donation for the temple. After multiple attempts, the people in charge of the temple finally agreed. In 2017, I was invited by some universities and monasteries in Hawaii to give Dharma lectures. That time, I wished to revisit the monastery. However, due to some reasons out of my control, my itinerary to travel abroad that year had to be cancelled, so I didn't make it in the end. Well, what happened was that on the first day, the authorities wished me the best to have a wonderful trip, but then but on the second day, they called me telling me that unfortunately there are lots of things happening at Larungar, so we really couldn't let you go. The person who was giving me this information kept on looking at my expression and trying to see if I would get upset or not. And that year, initially, I was supposed to go to Norway and Switzerland and Sweden, as well United States and so on, MIT, University of Chicago, Harvard, Hawaii, University of Hawaii, Nechung Temple. Initially, the preparation was already complete. There were 26 sessions of speech that's already been prepared and been written in my itinerary. But because that was the year that Larungar was going through some changes, so the authorities told me that I couldn't go, and then I said that's fine. So we started to rearrange the time. But then on the second time around, unfortunately, Hawaii was not in that itinerary. I did go to Harvard, MIT, Norway, Switzerland, Sweden, and so on. Those kinds of places I did go. This is the part of history. Next part is called Nature Protector again. Well, I was told that you have already received the picture of a Nature Protector, so now you have it. I will consecrate it for you.
Subtrati Jambanzari Suha, Subtrati Jambanzari, Subtrati Jambanzari, so Manjurthambur Traji show, Yano to Jason Traji show, the Regiment to give Traji, Jerry Cousin to give Traji show, who fashion.
Good, so you will receive it by Monday.
Let's
look at the book. In the morning of June the 21st, because we depart on June the 22nd, we only stayed there for 4 days. Prior to giving the Vajrakilaya Gurkhukma empowerment, once again His Holiness talked about his connection with the Nechung protector. Well, the Vajrakilaya Gurkhukma was the empowerment that I wanted to give you during the teachings of the peaceful manjushri as well, so that you will be able to receive all of them. You will be able to receive the empowerments and or transmissions of the entire teachings that Phurba Rinpoche had given in the West. But now, auspiciously, you have already received all of them. though that some of you did not receive the Chesunintik empowerment, but the majority of you have received it during the Nintik Yapshi empowerments the year before. So to give you the teachings of this is quite convenient for me, and it's very beneficial for you to receive all of the Vajrayana teachings with the empowerment and the oral transmissions prior to the actual studies. So over here, Phuntsok Rinpoche once again talked about his connection with Nechung protector over here. In the past, Orgyen Padmasambhava brought the Dharma to Tibet and made it shine throughout the land of snows. Actually, in order to make that happen, it was necessary to stimulate all good conditions. Can you find the other pair of glasses for me? Well, let's continue. When Padmasambhava spread the Dharma in the land of snows, in order to dispel any possible obstacles or unfavorable conditions, he carried this Vajrakilaya sadhana that was hidden in a small pouch and hung around his neck. Since it was such a special pith instruction that he rarely transmitted to anyone, this sadhana was called the Vajrakilaya Neck-Pouch, or the Phurba Gurkhukma in Tibetan. Well, this particular teaching, you will be able to read it further in the book as well. This is the teaching that's rarely transmitted to anyone. In Tibet, many lamas would carry those pith instructions in a small pouch and then wear it around their necks. So that's the tradition of carrying those precious pith instructions, and this is called the neck pouch, or the Phurba Gurkhukma in Tibetan. Speaking of Dharma practice, it is a universal law that however profound a practice could be, if favorable conditions are not present, it is unable to benefit sentient beings much. On the contrary, as long as all favorable conditions come together, even a not so advanced practice can immensely benefit sentient beings. In terms of the practice of Vajrakilaya, it has never been even broken or had any inauspiciousness associated to it. This particular teaching has great tendril associated to it. Also, the timing is perfect. The favorable conditions are perfect. That is why this teaching is of great blessings. So, a few of Phuntsok Rinpoche's teachings, including peaceful mandrasha as well as Vajrakilaya Gurkhukma, the entire sadhana was not translated, but the daily practice sadhana is translated already. For those of you who have already received the peaceful mandrasha empowerment, you should practice it diligently, and for those of you who received the Vajrakilaya empowerment, then you should practice that diligently as well. And if you haven't, at least you should read up on it. The root holder of this practice is His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Nechung Protector, the chief of all Dharma protectors. I handed it to the hands right after I reviewed this term. How did I do so? Actually, I did not directly ask Rinpoche to receive this practice from me, saying such words like that, I have this sadhana and it is better for you to practice it. It was Rinpoche who actually voluntarily came to me and said, since you have this Vajrakilaya practice, please grant me its empowerment and instructions for practice. Then, treating it as making mandala offerings to him, I offered him the empowerment and explained the practice instructions. This is this has been mentioned in other teachings as well. Out of immeasurable joy, he wrote the prayer and lineage masters of this practice, in which he made supplications to my various past reincarnations. Moreover, when a fire offering of sadhana for Vajrakilaya Neck-Pouch cycle appeared in my mind, he was beside me and he wrote it down in person. Because he is a great spiritual guide who makes incessant endeavor for the world peace, that is something hard to imagine. The whole process of how that happened had also been written down as well. I remember that at the moment, Phurba Gurkhukma all of a sudden had the fire offering, the fire puja sadhana appeared in his mind, and then Tenzin Rinpoche then started to write it down. But it is a result of his previous aspiration and our karmic connection. Initially, there was another sentence where it states that because of this, the blessing and the power of this practice, His Holiness's activity spread it all over the world, but I didn't include it in the book later on. Then how did I entrust this practice to Nechung Protector? He received the empowerment directly when he descended into the body of the oracle. Usually, since it is an intense process, the protector will not stay for a very long time to receive any empowerment and teachings. But that time he stayed to receive empowerment and listened faithfully and respectfully. And during the teaching, he offered me a Buddha statue, a text, and a stupa, and exhorted me, please rely on this Vajrakilaya practice to benefit sentient beings more extensively. Also, please compose a sadhana of subjugating activity. I think I've mentioned this before as well. When we were in India, at Namdrolin, I believe on the 17th of August, Phurba Gurkhukma also, during the time of the empowerment of Vajrakilaya, he manifested a wrathful form, and he manifested in this wrathful appearance and then composed another sadhana. This is the sadhana that appeared to him. So this is the one that the protector requested him to compose. Therefore, at that time when I was in Dharamsala, I composed an offering prayer to him to show my appreciation because he had helped me to accomplish what I wished for. This is really short. I tried to look for it and I couldn't find the Tibetan version of it. I'm sure it is included in the first memoir. The Nechung protector descended into the body of the oracle that time, and then this particular offering prayer was composed, came into the mind of Phurba Gurkhukma, and then was written down. This time, when I just came here, at the request of Nechung Protector and many disciples here, I also composed a 4-line prayer to the Protector. So sometimes, because of the supplication of disciples, Phurba Gurkhukma composed certain things, and sometimes because of the Protector's supplication, though that we cannot perceive those kinds of supplications, Phurba Gurkhukma will also compose certain supplications and prayers and sadhanas or so. If you chant these 2 prayers regularly, the Nechung Protector will wholeheartedly assist you and give you uncommonly great protection. Well, tomorrow you should be able to receive the picture of the Nechung Protector, and you should make supplications and offerings to him. My relationship with the Nechung protector is not newly created. Our bond has been established and strengthened through many lifetimes. In the past, the Churton Sogyo had given the protector empowerments, teachings, and many instructions. The Nechung protector also predicted different things that the turtle needed to do and guided him to find places where dharmas were hidden. Well, though this part is similar to the previous part of the information, but I think the perspective and angles are different, so it's included here. Between the 13th Tibetan Gyatso and the Churton Sogyo, the Nechung protector would take messages back and forth to assist their communication as well. As I mentioned yesterday, when I was in Dharamsala, the oracle came to me. At that time, I was talking about stories happening in my previous life. Then the protector descended, and he was overjoyed, like a father and a son meeting again after a long separation. At that time, Phurba Rinpoche said that the Nechung protector and his story about the protector, and at that time, and those kinds of stories were included in the first memoir, where in the form of a monastic, the protector came to him. His facial expressions showed that his devotion and faith in me is overwhelming. And on the second day, when I visited Nechung Monastery the next day, well, this Nechung Monastery, in fact, it's not just this one in Hawaii, but there are different Nechung monasteries all over the world, in India and in different places. Some monk asked me, would you like to invite the Nechung protector to come? It occurred to me that if he were to give prophecies regarding political matters, I would have trouble when I go back. So I declined, thank you, but no. However, because they already knew what happened the day before, they said, although you do not invite the protector to come, observing from his joyful expression and respectful manner when meeting you, it is very likely that he will suddenly descend. Thus, the outfit for the protector was prepared, usually at the time of descent to oracles. So the person has to wear the outfit, just like how during special events, the wrathful costumes should be prepared. During, I believe the photo of that moment is included in the first memoir. From what I can remember, the specialty, or what's so special about descent, is that he did not blink his eyes at all. The energy field was very different. Everybody could feel it. When Phurba Rinpoche was bestowing empowerment at the mandala on the top of the mountain, he also exhibited some of those signs as well, but he didn't like us to talk too much about it. So in Tibet, there are also the descent of protectors too. Then when I was giving the empowerment, the protector indeed descended. When the oracle just went into a trance, the monks immediately put the special outfit on him. Then the protector came, and with unsurpassable respect and sincerity, he offered me a Buddha statue, a text, and a stupa. Complying with my wish, he did not touch on the topics such as politics. Rather, he spoke of auspicious words about flourishing the dharma and bringing peace and happiness to sentient beings, and wished the Dalai Lama to remain in this world for a very long time and for his activity to flourish. What the protector said was written down, and you can refer to it for additional details. In addition, there are more stories about my connection with Nechung protector, but it would take too long, so I would not elaborate too much about that. And all in all, I have just briefly explained to you about the wonderful occasion of how this practice was transmitted to its root holder, the Dalai Lama, and the Nechung protector. Because this practice has such unusual backgrounds, it is filled with enormous blessing power unmatched by any other practice. It is from this Vajrakilaya Gurkhukma practice that Guru Rinpoche began his dharma propagation in Tibet, and it is the mother of all dharmas in Tibet. Anyone who practices it will enjoy all wonderful and auspicious circumstances, eliminate all misfortunes, and have all their wishes fulfilled. Now I'm going to give you the empowerment of Vajrakilaya. So whomsoever wish to practice it would be the best for you to receive the empowerment first. After this teaching and this empowerment had been given to the Western practitioners, many of whom continued to engage in this practice. So this year, after you have already received this, I think it would be the best for you to also practice it as well, because as Phurba Rinpoche stated, whomsoever practices it will enjoy all wonderful and auspicious circumstances and eliminate all misfortunes and have all their wishes fulfilled. So Phurba Rinpoche then gave the empowerment of Vajrakilaya Gurkhukma. Later that afternoon, so this empowerment concluded the morning class, and then in the afternoon, we visited Punalu Black Sand Beach Park. It is made from basalt sand formed from basaltic lava. After erupting from craters, lava may run all over and then run all the way to the ocean. As you can see from the photo, you can as you can see on the ground, it's all black. When encountering the ocean water, it cools down and it becomes solidified. Through years of scoring of water and eroding of wind, black sand has come into being. Besides, the pitch black sand beach is a recreation area with picnic tables and beaches and beautiful palm trees embellishing the coastline. Well, on the photo you can see this Lama. This Lama was the abbot of Nechung monastery at the time. I really wish to meet him again, and initially it was planned, but since my itinerary had changed, so I couldn't meet him. And last year when he passed away, I was quite saddened for a period of time. But that was the last time we met each other in this lifetime. With all it could offer, this park is a very famous tourist site on the Big Island. It was indeed a sight to gladden the heart. Choji enjoyed the scenery and got some relaxation. Now, this marked a perfect ending of Rinpoche's Dharma propagation in Hawaii. And then the next part is during our stay in Hawaii, I was so impressed by the modern technology as well as the economic power of Western countries. For instance, there was a sound sensor light at the entrance of the building where we stayed. You may think that I'm quite silly how I could get so impressed by such a technological gadget. But back then, it was quite new to me. It would turn on once someone passed the entrance and turn off after a while. The sound of coughing could also turn it on. In those days, besides the ordinary light bulbs, I had never seen such a thing. It was really interesting to me. I thought there must be someone hiding somewhere to operating it. Out of curiosity, I just asked many people how it operated, but nobody could give me a good answer. They only knew how to install or use it, but did not know how the principle of the technology. I'm sure you're also like that too. Other than electricians and people who work in this industry, you probably don't know the principle of this technology. The modern people know how to use various kinds of things but don't know the principle behind it. How is it that if I cough and then the light would turn on? When we studied physics in school, these kinds of knowledge had never been included, so it's very new to me. Besides, everyone who attended the teachings had a big mobile phone and drove a car. For me, this was unimaginable because in those years, even the richest family in Tibetan region, who were often referred to as a 10K yuan family, meaning that their wealth has gone above 10,000 yuan, possessing only bicycles, and there were barely anyone who owned a motorcycle, let alone a car. In most cases, only the top officials working for the government could have the right to use a car. Still, they could not drive the car themselves, but a car could be driven only by an assigned driver. So it was hard for me to imagine that everyone had a car to drive by themselves. Since Hawaii was the first stop, when we arrived there, I found so many things interesting and new. Though after I got used to them, they were not as appealing, but still, that was quite an unforgettable experience for me. At that time, I remember that people would only, one person would drive one car. They would drive their car to the center and then attend the class, and then after the class, they will just drive back. In the cities, they usually would take bus and those public commute. So it was very difficult for me to imagine that a person would have such great freedom to drive a car by themselves. Back then, it was really fresh and new. So I wrote it down. At first, when I arrived there, I saw many of those new things, and after I got used to them, they become more mundane. However, His Holiness was never attracted to those material things. What he cares about was how to help sentient beings to get rid of afflictive emotions and how to liberate themselves from samsara. Phuntsok Rinpoche, other than asking about the numbers of audience and whether they would like to listen and so on, other than that, he didn't really pay too much attention to those materialistic things. The next part is about my conch is filled with His Holiness's blessing. I had a chance to interview another Buddhist who attended Yijin Ro's teaching in 1993, and his name is Greg Herbst. He has strong faith in Rinpoche and is a very devoted practitioner. When he attended our interview, his friend said he dressed up today, carefully taking out his giant conch and placing it close to him. He started to tell us what he could recollect. Now you can look at the photos of Miguel and Greg. They're photos of 30 years ago and of today. I think it's quite interesting to see how the time stamped on their face. So he dressed up, Greg dressed up on that day and said that when Khenpo Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche visited us, I worked as a firefighter in Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. The resident Lama, known fondly as Tipola, was my teacher. Besides the Dharma practice, I went to a lot of religious ceremonies of native Hawaiians. The native Hawaiians also would use conch, and the conch is an important instrument in their ceremony, so I learned how to blow it, and I am quite good at it. So following the tradition of Buddhism, I blew this conch outside of the shrine room before Rinpoche started to teach. Back at that time, I really felt that he was so good at blowing the conch, and I wondered how he got trained. And then Greg continued to say that then I placed my conch close to his throat when he taught, because based on the native Hawaiians' belief, the vibration of his voice would be stored as the good energy or mana, which is the Hawaiian word for divine energy. Based on Buddhism, his voice could also be stored in the conch as a blessing. Now, I heard that in the morning, right before your classes, before any of the mentoring sessions, you also blow conch. So in this way, your good energy will be able to be stored in the conch. On top of that, whatever kinds of beings hear the sound of conch, they will not be reborn in lower realms, and they will also attain liberation. During the Choji's stay, he visited the Volcanoes National Park. Since I worked there, I took him to the office of the superintendent. When he was introduced to a rock that Hawaiians believed to have some medical effect, he was quite curious and asked, "Can it cure me?" When hearing that, I guess that His Holiness might have some health issues. At that time, I think at the beginning of the trip, Phuntsok Rinpoche's health was good, but in the later part of the trip, Phuntsok Rinpoche got ill, rather got quite ill in Boston, in Napa Valley, Boston, and Canada. Those were the places where Phuntsok Rinpoche got quite ill. Also, Rocky Mountains too, he wasn't feeling too well. During those 4 stops, Phuntsok Rinpoche's health was not too great. During his trip to Singapore back in 1995, his health was good. We also went to the crater, and the photo that has a rainbow in the background was taken there. Then we drove all the way to the coast to see the place where lava fell from the cliff to the ocean, and Nizhinuru and his entourage were all quite amazed. The photo of Rinpoche, Miguel, and I was taken at Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. Can you see the photo? Look at his beard, it's all white now. He's the one holding the conch. He said that though many years have passed, the Yizhinuru's visit is still so vivid in my memory. I guess it is from his direct blessing as well as my conch. It stored his voice. I thought you would like to take a look, so I brought it here. I can blow it for you. He's really quite impressive. He kept this conch for 30 years. The 2 things that really impressed me, the 2 things that Westerners really impressed me. First one is that they have really good memories. Also, they kept the documents really well. Even after 30 years, look, Greg still kept that conch. And he specifically brought it to that interview. And he then blew it. But even today, I could still not believe that a great Lama like Khenpo Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche would come all the way from the land of Tibet to our tiny temple to take care of us. Now we have completed the first stop. Let's rededicate the merit.